I'm Melissa Davis, 32, standing in my kitchen when my parents slide a handwritten eviction notice across my table. Your sister needs this house after her divorce, my mother announces firmly. My father nods, adding, family comes first. 3 years of mortgage payments, renovations, and making this place mine, yet they expect me to hand over my keys because Vanessa's marriage collapsed. The shock freezes me momentarily before anger rises. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever had family members cross boundaries. My journey to homeownership wasn't an easy path. As a hospital administrator at Memorial Regional, I balanced 60-hour workweeks while completing my graduate degree in healthcare management. While my friends splurged on tropical vacations and designer clothes, I drove a 12-year-old Honda with manual windows and packed homemade lunches. Every cent of my discretionary income funneled directly into my house savings account for 6 consecutive years. The sacrifice manifested in tangible ways: declining destination wedding invitations, living in a studio apartment with questionable plumbing, working holiday shifts for extra pay. My singular focus, becoming a homeowner before turning 30, guided every financial decision. When I finally found my craftsman-style single-story nestled on a quiet tree-lined street in Oakwood Heights, the modest blue house with white trim spoke to me immediately. The original hardwood floors needed refinishing, and the kitchen featured outdated appliances, but the bones were solid. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a sunny breakfast nook overlooking a small backyard. It wasn't extravagant, but it represented everything I'd worked toward. Closing day arrived with an unexpected emotional weight. Signing those mortgage papers, receiving those keys, the culmination of dreams and disciplined saving brought tears to my eyes. I became the first person in my family to purchase property before 30, a milestone that carried both personal significance and a subtle shifting of family dynamics. My parents, Richard and Linda Davis, had always lived comfortably in the middle-class suburb where I grew up. Dad's construction management job provided stability, while Mom's 25 years teaching 4th grade cemented their position as respected community figures. They never struggled financially, yet never accumulated significant wealth either. Their attitude toward money reflected a traditional mindset: work hard, pay bills, save moderately, retire with dignity. The concept of aggressive saving and investment strategies remained foreign to them. This generational difference in financial approach created an undercurrent of tension whenever money discussions arose. My younger sister Vanessa approached life with dramatically different priorities. For years my junior, she possessed a natural charm that attracted admirers and opportunities effortlessly. Where I excelled academically through methodical effort, Vanessa breezed through school on charisma and intuitive intelligence. Our contrasting personalities established an unspoken family dynamic from childhood. I became the responsible, reliable daughter, while Vanessa embodied spontaneity and passion. This difference manifested most clearly in our career trajectories. My structured rise through hospital administration with its clear benchmarks and certifications contrasted sharply with Vanessa's flourishing career in luxury real estate sales. Her natural networking abilities and personable demeanor translated perfectly to showing multi-million-dollar properties. When she began dating Bradley Thompson, a commercial real estate developer with family connections throughout the industry, our lives diverged even further. Their wedding 3 years ago reflected their merged affluence: a 5-star resort reception with customized everything and a honeymoon tour through Mediterranean coastal towns. They purchased a sprawling 5-bedroom colonial in the estates at Willowbrook, a gated community featuring private tennis courts and artificial lakes. Meanwhile, I attended their wedding alone, still saving for my down payment, wearing a department store dress I'd carefully selected to maximize versatility for future events. Our parents never explicitly favored Vanessa, yet patterns emerged over decades. When childhood disagreements erupted, I received lectures about being the bigger person. My achievements, honor roll, scholarship offers, promotions, garnered polite acknowledgement, while Vanessa's successes triggered enthusiastic celebration. My parents' subtle preference became increasingly apparent at family gatherings. This past Thanksgiving, while I shared news about my department's successful implementation of a patient care initiative that increased satisfaction scores by 28%, conversation quickly pivoted when Vanessa casually mentioned recent tensions with Bradley. My professional milestone evaporated from discussion as everyone leaned forward with concerned questions about my sister's marriage. Over time, I established careful boundaries, limiting personal information shared, maintaining financial privacy, and creating a supportive network outside my family. My closest friend Amber Carson, a real estate attorney specializing in property disputes, often provided both legal insights and emotional support through family challenges. My colleague Jackson from hospital administration understood family complexity, having navigated similar dynamics with his siblings. These relationships created space where I felt truly seen and valued, a stark contrast to family gatherings where I perpetually occupied a supporting role in the ongoing Vanessa show. Despite these challenges, I maintained cordial family relationships, joining monthly dinners and holiday celebrations while protecting my emotional well-being through appropriate distance. This delicate balance worked reasonably well until Vanessa's marriage imploded, and suddenly my carefully constructed boundaries faced their greatest test yet. The first warning sign arrived via text message on a Tuesday morning during my commute. Call me ASAP. Emergency with Vanessa. Mom's cryptic message contained no further details, leaving my imagination to conjure various scenarios as I navigated morning traffic. When I finally connected with her from my office, the news tumbled out in emotional fragments. Bradley had filed for divorce after less than 3 years of marriage. His development company had faced significant setbacks when 2 major projects lost financing, dramatically altering their financial landscape. According to Mom, Bradley had suggested lifestyle adjustments, postponing their planned luxury kitchen renovation, canceling their Mediterranean cruise, trading one of their German vehicles for something more economical. Vanessa interpreted these practical proposals as personal betrayal. Their arguments escalated until Bradley moved into a downtown condo, leaving Vanessa alone in their oversized house with mortgage payments she couldn't possibly cover on her commission-based income. That evening, I called Vanessa directly, somewhat surprised when she actually answered. Her voice sounded raw from crying, vulnerability replacing her usual confident tone. Everything's falling apart, Mel. He's completely changed, talking about financial responsibility and living within our means like we're suddenly poor. I listened sympathetically, offering genuine condolences about her marriage dissolving. When conversation turned toward immediate concerns, I extended a practical olive branch. You're welcome to stay in my guest room temporarily while you figure out next steps. 3 weeks should give you time to arrange something more permanent. Vanessa's thank you seemed sincere, though she mentioned needing to think about other options before accepting. 2 days later, my parents called with an update that Vanessa had moved back to their house temporarily. The conversation shifted when Dad cleared his throat in that particular way that always preceded uncomfortable topics. Your sister's situation is pretty dire, Melissa. She's used to a certain standard of living. This adjustment is hitting her hard. Mom chimed in immediately. We were thinking about possible solutions and, well, your situation gives you more flexibility. The implication hung unspoken between us until I prompted clarification. Mom continued, your house has that extra bedroom, and you're just one person in all that space. Dad added, family makes sacrifices during crises. That's what being part of this family means. The conversation left me with an uneasy feeling that intensified when I learned Vanessa had rejected a reasonable divorce settlement. Bradley's attorney had offered a fair division of assets, including a generous cash payment that would have secured her comfortable housing. Instead, Vanessa demanded maintaining ownership of their luxury home, an impossible financial arrangement given her inconsistent income. When I suggested helping her find an affordable apartment or offering to co-sign a reasonable lease, my suggestions were dismissed as not understanding Vanessa's emotional needs during trauma. Mom called the following Saturday, requesting a family meeting at my house Sunday afternoon. The short notice and official framing rang alarm bells, but I reluctantly agreed. Sunday morning, I found myself anxiously straightening already tidy rooms, an inexplicable nervousness driving me to reposition sofa pillows and reorganize kitchen counters. When the doorbell rang at precisely 2 o'clock, I opened it to find not just my parents, but Vanessa as well, all wearing expressions of somber determination. My sister's gaze immediately swept across my entryway, her subtle grimace registering disapproval of my modest decor. "The living room feels smaller than I remembered," she commented while examining my bookcases with critical interest. Dinner unfolded with uncomfortable small talk, topics carefully steering around the obvious purpose behind this orchestrated visit. Dad complimented my herb-roasted chicken while asking pointed questions about my mortgage terms. Mom inquired about neighborhood property values while refilling water glasses. Vanessa remained unusually quiet, studying the dining room dimensions with calculating eyes. After dessert, Dad straightened in his chair, adopting the authoritative posture from our childhood family meetings. "Melissa, we've been discussing options for Vanessa's situation as a family. Your mother and I believe we've found the perfect solution that addresses everyone's needs." His rehearsed tone suggested this solution had been thoroughly developed without my input. Mom nodded encouragingly as Dad continued. "We know how much you value family, and right now, your sister needs substantial support during this difficult transition." The conversation was heading somewhere specific, somewhere that made my stomach tighten with foreboding. My father reached beside his chair, producing a manila folder that he positioned deliberately at the center of my dining table. "We've put together a proposal that makes sense for everyone involved," he announced, sliding the folder toward me with an expectant nod. Inside, I found several typed pages detailing what could only be described as an outrageous demand disguised as a reasonable family arrangement. The document outlined their expectation that I would surrender my home to Vanessa while relocating to an apartment. A second paper, the eviction notice, handwritten by my mother in her distinctive cursive, specified I should vacate within 30 days. I stared at the pages in stunned disbelief while my mother launched into justification mode. "Vanessa has children to consider, Melissa. They need stability during this upheaval. The fact that my 11-year-old nephew and 13-year-old niece attended prestigious boarding schools and spent minimal time at home apparently didn't diminish this argument in her mind." My father leaned forward, adopting his problem-solving voice. "We've researched several excellent apartment complexes within 20 minutes of the hospital. The Parkview Gardens has a fitness center and pool. You'd actually be upgrading your amenities." Their preparation revealed the calculated nature of this ambush. My mother's eyes welled with practiced tears. "After everything we've sacrificed for you throughout your life, this is your opportunity to give back to the family." Dad nodded solemnly. "Vanessa cannot possibly maintain her standard of living without assistance. You, on the other hand, have your stable hospital position with benefits and regular promotions. You can afford an apartment easily, whereas your sister's commission-based income fluctuates unpredictably." While this conversation unfolded, Vanessa circled my living room with a measuring tape she'd produced from her designer handbag, assessing spaces for her furniture placement. "This wall could accommodate my entertainment center if we remove these bookshelves," she announced to no one in particular, evaluating my possessions as obstacles to her design vision. The folder contained additional documents, printouts of one-bedroom apartment listings circled in red marker, complete with rental rates and application requirements. The thoroughness of their planning revealed this wasn't an impulsive suggestion but a coordinated strategy developed over days or possibly weeks. The most shocking detail emerged when I questioned financial arrangements. "Obviously, the mortgage would remain your responsibility," my father explained matter-of-factly. "Vanessa needs time to rebuild her client base without housing pressure. Once she's back on her feet financially, perhaps you could discuss transferring ownership properly." The audacity rendered me momentarily speechless. They expected me to surrender my home while continuing monthly payments. "This house is legally mine," I finally managed, voice quivering with restraint. "I saved for the down payment, qualified for the mortgage independently, and have maintained it entirely with my own income." My mother dismissed these facts with a dismissive wave. "Legal technicalities shouldn't override family needs, Melissa. Property is just property. Family is forever." Vanessa, meanwhile, had migrated upstairs, where drawers opened and closed as she evaluated bedroom storage. Her voice floated down. The master bath needs updating, but I could work with this space temporarily. The violation of having her inspect my private spaces while my parents delivered their ultimatum pushed me toward a breaking point. I need you all to leave, I stated firmly, standing to indicate finality. My father's expression hardened. We're trying to have a rational family discussion. There's no need for emotional reactions. Their refusal to acknowledge my reasonable boundaries escalated tensions further. Voices rose until my neighbor, Mrs. Abernathy, glanced concernedly through her window, witnessing my family dysfunction with undisguised curiosity. Eventually, my father gathered their documents while delivering his parting ultimatum. You have 1 week to make your decision, Melissa. Either you demonstrate your commitment to this family, or you choose selfishness. Those are your options. My mother added her emotional punctuation. I never imagined raising a daughter who would place material possessions above her sister's well-being. Vanessa exited last, pausing dramatically in my doorway. I've already started packing. Don't make this harder than necessary. After their departure, the violation of their coordinated manipulation left me trembling in my kitchen, the very space where I'd celebrated homeownership with a small, private toast 3 years earlier. Their strategic approach was unmistakable. This wasn't an impulsive request, but a calculated campaign to override my autonomy under the guise of family obligation. The sound of their car engines fading down my street triggered an emotional collapse I hadn't anticipated. Sinking onto my kitchen floor, I hugged knees to chest while processing the breathtaking entitlement my family had displayed. Doubt crept insidiously through my certainty. Was I truly being selfish? Did family obligation actually extend to surrendering my greatest financial achievement? Sleep proved impossible that night, as I mentally cataloged similar patterns throughout our family history. At 16, my parents had insisted I share my car with Vanessa despite her previous fender bender in Mom's vehicle. During college, they'd pressured me to adjust my class schedule to drive Vanessa to weekend auditions for modeling opportunities. Each situation featured identical dynamics, Vanessa's desires superseding my needs, packaged as reasonable family expectations. Morning arrived with bloodshot eyes and newfound clarity. Over lunch with Amber at a quiet corner table in Riverside Cafe, I recounted the previous day's ambush. My friend's professional experience as a real estate attorney brought valuable perspective. What they're suggesting isn't just inappropriate. Parts of it potentially border on harassment and fraud, she explained between bites of her salad. Continuing to pay a mortgage for property you've surrendered possession of creates a legally problematic situation for everyone involved. Her forthright assessment validated my instinctive resistance. Property rights exist for reasons beyond legal technicalities, Amber continued, using air quotes to reference my mother's dismissive phrase. They're fundamental protections everyone deserves, even family members. That afternoon, I researched tenant law and family property disputes using the hospital's legal database during my break. Countless cases documented similar situations where emotional manipulation preceded financial exploitation. One article particularly resonated: Family Financial Abuse, Recognition and Response, outlining how adult children often face undue pressure regarding property and assets from relatives experiencing economic challenges. The rational side of my brain recognized the absurdity of my parents' demand, yet emotional entanglements complicated my response. Years of conditioning to prioritize family harmony made establishing boundaries feel simultaneously necessary, yet somehow disloyal. Friday afternoon, I scheduled a consultation with attorney Rebecca Martinez, whose law office occupied a converted Victorian house downtown. Her reputation for handling family property disputes with sensitivity influenced my selection. The polished wooden conference table between us provided grounding as I detailed my situation. Rebecca listened without interruption before explaining my legal position with refreshing clarity. Your parents have absolutely no standing to evict you from property you legally own, she stated emphatically. Furthermore, any agreement where you continue mortgage responsibility while surrendering occupancy creates problematic liability issues for everyone involved. Her professional assessment reinforced what common sense already indicated. My family's proposal wasn't merely unreasonable, but potentially harmful to all parties. We discussed documentation and protective measures while Rebecca outlined various options depending on my family's subsequent actions. Sometimes, a formal letter from legal counsel clarifying property rights ends these situations, she explained. Other times, establishing clear communication boundaries becomes necessary. As I gathered mortgage documentation and ownership papers at home that evening, disturbing discoveries surfaced. Multiple neighbors mentioned my parents inquiring about property values in the area weeks before their ambush. My mother had apparently told Mrs. Abernathy they were helping me sell my house, a complete fabrication. Most alarmingly, Vanessa's Instagram featured a post from 3 days earlier showcasing furniture with a caption, "Selecting perfect pieces for my new chapter. #new home, #fresh start." The implication that my house was already hers and her mind crystallized the calculated nature of their plan. The breaking point arrived Sunday morning when my parents appeared unannounced on my doorstep carrying flattened moving boxes and packing tape. "We thought you might need help getting started," my father announced with presumptive confidence. "These are left over from Vanessa's move out of the Willowbrook house." Their assumption that I'd conceded to their demand without verbal confirmation pushed me beyond internal debate into decisive action. Monday morning, I authorized Rebecca to send a formal cease and desist letter outlining my legal rights and the consequences of continued harassment. Signing the authorization form brought conflicting emotions, empowerment mixed with grief that legal intervention had become necessary with my own family. Rebecca's staff prepared comprehensive documentation citing relevant property statutes and harassment guidelines, while I activated a support network of trusted friends who understood the situation's complexity. The letter specifically prohibited entering my property without explicit invitation, making public claims about property ownership changes, or continuing to pressure me regarding housing arrangements for Vanessa. My attorney recommended documentation of all future interactions, establishing a paper trail should additional legal steps become necessary. The certified letter reached my parents' home Tuesday afternoon according to tracking confirmation. Rebecca had arranged for delivery requiring signature, ensuring proper documentation of receipt. Dad's name appeared on the electronic confirmation at exactly 3:47 in the afternoon. Their initial response manifested as stunned silence, no calls, texts, or unannounced visits for nearly 24 hours. This unprecedented quiet broke Thursday morning when my phone exploded with notifications. Text messages accumulated rapidly, Mom's guilt-laden questions about involving strangers in family matters, Dad's stern warnings about permanent relationship damage, and Vanessa's dramatic accusations of betrayal. Extended family members I rarely heard from suddenly became involved. Aunt Catherine called expressing concern about your parents' stress levels, while Uncle Steve texted about finding compromises during difficult times. Each conversation revealed how thoroughly my parents had circulated their distorted version of events, positioning themselves as reasonable helpers faced with my inexplicable resistance. Vanessa's social media campaign expanded simultaneously. Her carefully curated posts featured tearful selfies captioned with vague references to family heartbreak and unexpected betrayal during crisis. Comments from mutual acquaintances included supportive messages suggesting I was being unusually difficult, though Vanessa carefully avoided specific accusations that could be deemed defamatory. Monday morning brought the most direct confrontation when my parents arrived with a locksmith while I prepared for work. From my bedroom window, I watched in disbelief as the locksmith approached my front door with my father gesturing authoritatively toward the doorknob. Grabbing my phone, I began recording video while calling the non-emergency police line simultaneously. The locksmith appeared visibly uncomfortable as I emerged from my side door asking directly, "Are you aware this property belongs solely to me, and I haven't authorized any lock changes?" His uncertain glance toward my father confirmed his confusion about the situation. Officer Rivera arrived within minutes, maintaining professional neutrality while separately gathering information from all parties. The locksmith departed quickly after examining my identification and property documentation, apologizing for the confusion. My father's composed facade cracked when Officer Rivera explained that changing locks without the legal owner's consent potentially constituted criminal activity. This is absurd. Were her parents trying to help family members, he exclaimed, face flushing dramatically. My mother's approach shifted to emotional manipulation, tears flowing as she clutched dramatically at her chest. You're killing your father with unnecessary stress, Melissa. Is this house worth his health? Their performance might have affected me previously, but witnessing their willingness to potentially break laws clarified the situation's severity. Officer Rivera recommended I file an official report documenting the incident, creating additional legal protection. The confrontation's intensity escalated when an unexpected ally emerged later that week. Bradley Thompson, Vanessa's soon-to-be ex-husband, contacted me directly through LinkedIn, requesting a brief conversation concerning family dynamics affecting legal proceedings. During our coffee meeting downtown, Bradley revealed illuminating information. Vanessa was offered a very generous settlement that would have provided sufficient funds for comfortable housing, he explained, looking exhausted from ongoing divorce proceedings. She rejected 3 separate proposals because she's convinced she deserves the Willowbrook house despite clear evidence we can no longer afford it. His revelation about Vanessa's rejected opportunities contradicted her victim narrative completely. I've seen the text exchanges about your house, he admitted hesitantly. She's been discussing moving in there since before, even telling me about her relocation plans with your parents. The calculated nature of their scheme became undeniably evident. The situation reached critical mass during a cousin's wedding weekend where extended family gathered. My arrival at the rehearsal dinner created palpable tension as relatives chose sides through seating arrangements and conversation groupings. Midway through the event, my typically reserved Anna Lane approached my isolated table. I've heard both versions of this situation, she stated directly. Your parents' story doesn't quite add up. This opening allowed several relatives to express similar doubts about my parents' characterization of events. Uncle Robert, a retired judge, specifically questioned the appropriateness of their demands. Property rights don't dissolve because someone else suddenly wants what you've worked for, he noted, loud enough for nearby tables to overhear. This public questioning triggered Vanessa's dramatic exit from the reception, followed closely by my parents. The momentary breakdown of their unified narrative revealed its fragility when exposed to objective scrutiny. Their departure created space for honest conversation with relatives who recognized the situation's impropriety. The wedding reception itself became the backdrop for the conflict's climax when my parents cornered me near the restrooms. Dad's lowered voice carried unmistakable threat. If you don't reconsider this stubborn position, you're no longer welcome at family gatherings. Period. Mom nodded in solemn agreement while adding, sometimes family requires sacrifice. Clearly you've chosen material possessions over people who truly matter. Their ultimatum, surrender my home or accept excommunication, crystallized the dysfunctional dynamics perfectly. Vanessa's unexpected appearance completed the dramatic tableau. I deserve that house more than you ever will, she hissed, momentarily abandoning her public victim persona. I have actual children and responsibilities. Your pathetic little hospital job and empty house. What's even the point? Her unfiltered contempt revealed the truth beneath carefully constructed justifications. Witnessing their coordination, manipulation, and willingness to deliver ultimatums provided perfect clarity. This wasn't about family crisis response but entitlement and control disguised as reasonable expectation. Rebecca's advice following continued harassment became increasingly assertive. Given the attempted illegal entry and ongoing pressure tactics, we should consider a restraining order, she advised during our follow-up consultation. Their behavior has moved beyond familial disagreement into potentially actionable harassment. Standing amid wedding celebrations while being essentially disowned for refusing exploitation, I experienced an unprecedented moment of clarity. Years of subtle manipulation suddenly appeared in perfect focus, a lifetime pattern rather than isolated incident. Despite the emotional pain piercing my chest, certainty replaced confusion. My home represented more than physical property. It symbolized hard-won independence from exactly this type of manipulation. The Monday following the wedding confrontation, I contacted Advanced Security Systems to install comprehensive protection, doorbell cameras, window sensors, motion-activated exterior lighting, and a monitoring service with mobile alerts. The technician completed installation by Wednesday, providing immediate notification of any approach to my property. This tangible safety measure brought unexpected emotional relief, creating space to address additional vulnerabilities. Financial security required immediate attention after discovering my parents possessed concerning amounts of personal information. Their apartment research contained my social security number and salary details I'd never shared directly. A consultation with financial advisor Maria Fernandez at my credit union revealed multiple concerning vulnerabilities. Family members often know security question answers and may have access to mail or personal documents, she explained while helping establish additional protections. Over 2 focus days, I methodically changed every password using a randomized system recorded in an encrypted manager. Banking institutions received instructions requiring in-person identification for account access or modifications. Credit bureaus implemented extended fraud alerts requiring additional verification for new accounts. My employer's HR department added privacy notations to personnel files limiting information disclosure. These systematic protections created a fortress around financial assets my family couldn't penetrate regardless of personal information they possessed. Professional boundaries required similar reinforcement. My supervisor Janet demonstrated unexpected support after I briefly explained the situation, requiring flexible scheduling for legal appointments. Family difficulties shouldn't compound professional stress, she assured me, adjusting my administrative responsibilities temporarily. Your work quality remains exceptional despite personal challenges. Her straightforward support contrasted sharply with my family's emotional manipulation. Anonymous housing insights arrived unexpectedly via mailbox, a handwritten note from neighbor Thomas Wilkins detailing observations. On Tuesday afternoon while walking my dog, I witnessed 2 women and an older man examining your backyard gate and testing windows. They appeared frustrated by the locked shed. Concerned about potential break-in attempts, I've noted dates and times of similar activities. His documentation provided additional evidence supporting Rebecca's legal strategy if escalation continued. Direct communication with Vanessa occurred unexpectedly at Greenfield Coffee, where we literally bumped into each other in line. Her initial frosty demeanor thawed slightly when I suggested sitting briefly. Despite everything, I genuinely want to understand your perspective, I offered sincerely. The conversation revealed illuminating truths about her motivations. You've always had everything perfectly organized, she admitted after her defensive posture gradually relaxed. Your promotion schedule, your savings plan, your house. Meanwhile, my marriage imploded because Bradley suddenly decided being responsible matters more than promises. Her perception of my stability as somehow unfair rather than the result of specific choices revealed the jealousy underlying her entitlement. When conversation shifted toward practical assistance, I offered connections to financial counseling services through the hospital's employee assistance program and introductions to several property managers specializing in affordable housing options. I can help you build a realistic budget and housing plan, I explained, genuinely concerned about her well-being despite our conflict. Vanessa's expression hardened immediately. I don't need financial literacy classes or budget apartments. I need a proper house that reflects my position. Her categorical rejection of practical assistance clarified that material acquisition rather than actual needs drove her demands. My attorney's second communication to my parents contained stronger language following the attempted lock-changing incident. The certified letter outlined specific legal consequences for trespassing, harassment, defamation, and attempted unauthorized property access. Rebecca included reference to potential criminal charges should certain behaviors continue, with copies forwarded to local law enforcement establishing documentation trails. The legal consequences finally penetrated their determination. Dad's text message arrived Thursday evening. We're discontinuing this conversation regarding housing arrangements. Your choices remain disappointing, but we acknowledge your legal position. The terse message contained no apology, but effectively communicated their retreat from active harassment. Establishing a 3-month no-contact period allowed emotional processing without continuous boundary violations. My therapist, Dr. Winters, suggested this cooling-off period rather than permanent estrangement, providing space to develop healthier interaction patterns if relationships eventually resumed. Family reconciliation requires acknowledgement of harmful patterns, she explained during our weekly session. Without that recognition, contact often perpetuates damage rather than healing. Building alternative support systems became crucial during family disconnection. Monthly dinner gatherings with colleagues evolved into deeper friendships as Jackson, Priya, and Marcus shared their own family complexity stories. Weekend hiking with Amber's outdoor group introduced diverse perspectives from people with similar boundary establishment journeys. Volunteer shifts at the community garden created connections with neighbors who appreciated my reliability without emotional demands. These intentional relationship investments created the chosen family absent in biological connections. Professional focus channeled emotional energy productively, resulting in unexpected career advancement when the Director of Patient Experience position opened. Your recent quality improvement initiative demonstrated exactly the leadership approach we need, the Chief Operating Officer explained during my interview. Particularly impressive was maintaining program excellence despite personal challenges. The promotion brought increased responsibility, but also flexibility and compensation that further secured my independence. Documents organized with Rebecca's guidance created comprehensive legal protection, notarized property statements, communication records, incident reports, witness statements, and financial documentation demonstrating sole ownership and maintenance responsibility. Even if they were new pressure tactics, this preparation ensures immediate protective responses, Rebecca explained during our final consultation. The first holiday season without family contact brought complicated emotions. Thanksgiving traditionally centered around my parents' dining room table with extended family. Instead, I accepted Amber's invitation to her potluck gathering where guests represented various relationship structures, friends supporting each other through family estrangements, chosen connections replacing biological ones, and people creating new celebration traditions. The gathering's warmth and acceptance brought unexpected joy divorced from obligation. December's Neighborhood Luminaria event, where residents lined streets with candlelit paper bags, symbolized my community integration outside family definitions. Participating in this shared tradition while chatting with neighbors who recognized me as an individual rather than someone's daughter or sister highlighted the authenticity possible in chosen connections. My home gradually reclaimed its identity as personal sanctuary rather than contested territory. Repainting the guest room in ocean blues instead of the neutral beige chosen for universal appeal asserted personal preference over potential family visits. Landscaping the backyard with a meditation garden featuring a small fountain transformed previously unused space into daily comfort. Each improvement symbolically reinforced ownership beyond legal documentation. This space reflected my values, preferences, and vision without accommodation for others' expectations. 6 months following the confrontation, my home transformation extended beyond physical changes. The living room now featured local artwork where family photos once dominated. My previously sterile guest room had become a combination home office and reading sanctuary with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. The kitchen sported the cobalt blue backsplash I'd always wanted but hesitated to install fearing family criticism. Each modification represented reclamation, not merely of physical space but personal identity beyond family-assigned roles. Therapy with Dr. Winters progressed from crisis management to deeper patterns. Your parents established reciprocity expectations without stated terms, she observed during one particularly insightful session. Their support came with unwritten obligations you were expected to fulfill without question. This framework helped contextualize their genuine shock when I refused their demand. They truly believed my compliance was an unspoken contractual obligation. Understanding didn't require acceptance, but it provided clarity about their perspective. News trickled through extended family channels that Vanessa had indeed moved into my parents' guest room, temporarily following her divorce finalization. Cousin Jennifer reported growing tension in that arrangement as Vanessa's expectations clashed with my parents' retirement lifestyle. She expected them to provide childcare whenever her kids visited from boarding school, Jennifer explained during our occasional coffee meetups. Your mom finally established boundaries about babysitting hours, which apparently caused major drama. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, my parents now experiencing the entitlement they'd previously enabled. Limited contact maintained with select extended family-provided connection without toxicity. Uncle Robert's monthly check-in calls offered wisdom from his judicial perspective, while Aunt Elaine's occasional lunch invitations kept me connected to family news without pressure to reconcile prematurely. Both respected my boundaries regarding information sharing with my parents while maintaining their own independent relationships across family lines. My professional advancement accelerated as emotional energy previously consumed by family dynamics redirected toward creative initiatives. The patient experience program I developed received regional recognition, leading to speaking invitations at healthcare conferences. This external validation contrasted sharply with my family's dismissal of professional accomplishments, highlighting how their limited perspective had artificially diminished my achievements. An unexpected dimension of healing emerged through a developing relationship with Michael, a pediatric occupational therapist I met during a hospital committee meeting. His thoughtful questions and genuine interest initially registered as professionally courteous until shared coffee breaks evolved into dinner conversations and weekend hiking adventures. His family's healthy boundary recognition provided stark contrast to my experiences. My parents believe adult children deserve privacy and autonomy, he explained when discussing his family's communication style. They offer advice when asked but respect our decisions even when disagreeing. Witnessing these balanced family dynamics provided practical models for healthier relationships. 8 months into our established no-contact period, an email arrived from my mother, the first direct communication since their retreat. We've been reflecting on recent events and recognize our approach was inappropriate, she wrote without specifically acknowledging the manipulation tactics or legal violations. While we still believe families should support each other, we understand property decisions remain yours alone. The carefully worded message contained partial acknowledgement without complete accountability, a small step rather than transformative recognition. After consultation with Dr. Winters, I responded with brief appreciation for their reflection while establishing clear conditions for any future contact. Respect for legal boundaries, no discussion of my housing relative to Vanessa's needs, and limited, structured interactions, beginning with public meetings rather than private gatherings. Their acceptance of these terms enabled cautious re-engagement through occasional email updates and eventually a brief coffee meeting at a neutral location. Vanessa's entitlement issues continued affecting her life trajectory according to family updates. Her rejection of financial reality led to credit problems and employment instability as she pursued lifestyle maintenance rather than practical adjustment. While I maintained compassion for her struggles, witnessing the consequences of her choices reinforced my decision to establish firm boundaries despite significant pressure. The experience transformed my understanding of healthy versus unhealthy family relationships fundamentally. Genuine family support encourages independence and celebrates autonomy, a stark contrast to the conditional involvement I'd experienced where support carried unspoken obligations. This clarity extended beyond family relationships into friendships and professional connections, improving my ability to recognize manipulation tactics in various contexts. My evolved boundary-setting abilities proved unexpectedly valuable when supporting my colleague Jackson through similar family pressure regarding his savings. My parents expect access to my emergency fund because family resources should be shared, he explained during lunch. Your experience helped me recognize the manipulation before surrendering my financial security. Sharing lessons without bitterness provided purpose from painful experience. The legal preparations Rebecca helped establish created lasting protection against future attempts at financial or property interference. The documentation system we developed remains accessible should boundary violations recur, providing security without requiring constant vigilance. This practical protection allows emotional healing without vulnerability to repeated exploitation. A coffee with my mother after 11 months of limited contact revealed tiny steps toward potential understanding. Her careful acknowledgement that perhaps we overstepped represented significant movement from someone who rarely admitted errors. While complete relationship restoration remains uncertain, These small recognitions suggest potential for modified connection based on adjusted expectations rather than completely severed ties. The deepest lesson emerged gradually through consistent therapy and reflection. Family connections hold value, but cannot supersede individual well-being. Relationships requiring complete self-sacrifice reflect unhealthy power dynamics rather than genuine love. True family, whether biological or chosen, supports growth, respects boundaries, and celebrates independence rather than demanding conformity to unreasonable expectations. My home now represents more than physical property or financial achievement. It symbolizes the fundamental right to establish boundaries, make independent choices, and define relationships on mutual terms rather than exploitation. The security I feel unlocking my front door extends beyond physical safety into emotional sovereignty. This space remains mine not through selfish hoarding but appropriate boundary maintenance. Each room reflects personal choice rather than accommodation to unreasonable demands. The journey from shock at their eviction demand to confident boundary establishment transformed my understanding of relationships fundamentally. Standing firm against manipulation never contradicted family loyalty. Rather, it established the foundation for potentially healthier connections based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. Have you ever faced unreasonable demands from family members who claimed you were being selfish for maintaining your boundaries? Share your experience in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about navigating complicated family dynamics. Remember that establishing healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation.